Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a really focused look at specific sources, pull out the key stuff for you.
We try to cut through the noise.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're getting into excerpts from the Book of Ezekiel, which is, well, it's powerful prophetic writing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to think of prophecy not just as like fortune telling.
Right.
It's more about speaking truth, often to power, using these incredibly vivid images, divine messages, symbolic acts. It's all about highlighting, crucial spiritual reality, societal issues.
Okay. So our mission for this deep dive, we're navigating through a bunch of chapters here, starting around chapter 2, skipping a bit, but going right through large chunks up to 48.
It's a fair bit of ground.
It is. We want to really get a handle on the core messages. We're looking particularly at judgment, definitely, but also these maybe surprising promises of restoration later on.
And that sense of the divine presence, it's intense.
Yeah, prepare yourself for some really striking symbolic moments. Okay, let's untack this.
Let's start right at the beginning, chapters 2 and 3. This is Ezekiel's call, his commission.
His journey kicks off with this just overwhelming encounter with God.
Yeah, the description. He uses all the senses. This sound like a rushing wind, this radiant glory.
And it happens right there with the exiles, doesn't it? By the river Shabar.
Mm-hmm. And he just sits there, utterly astonished, for 7 days.
Can you imagine a whole week just processing that? The sheer weight of it?
That silence, that period of just being stunned, it really underlines the impact, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the seriousness of what he's about to be asked to do.
Yeah.
And then the word of the Lord comes. He's commissioned, made a watchman for the house of Israel.
And that watchman role, it's so critical. He's basically told, look, your job is to warn the wicked. Tell them the consequences.
Right. If danger is coming, and he doesn't sound the alarm.
He's held accountable, even if the wicked person still faces the music for their own choices. It's this idea of community responsibility.
Precisely. But if he does warn them, and they ignore it, well, they still face the consequences. But Ezekiel's done his part. He's delivered his soul, as the text puts it.
It emphasizes speaking truth, even when it's tough.
Definitely.
But it's not just the obviously wicked path. There's also this, well, pretty sobering bit about the righteous person who turns bad.
Mm-hmm.
If Ezekiel doesn't warn them about their new path and they die in that sin, their past good deeds, they don't count, and Ezekiel's on the hook again.
Wow.
But if he warns them and they listen, they live, and he's fulfilled his duty. It's like incredibly high stakes.
It really hammers home accountability, doesn't it, for
Yeah.
the individual and for, spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
And then there's that really strange symbolic constraint. He's bound up, made mute.
That always struck me. Physically restricted, can't speak freely.
Only when God specifically opens his mouth.
He becomes this pure conduit, almost. Only the Lord's words, only when told to this rebellious house.
Yeah, it seems the point is to make it crystal clear the message is purely divine. Not his opinion, not influenced by the crowd.
That enforced silence makes the words, when they do come, hit even harder.
Exactly. Amplifies the authority.
Okay, so from that intense start, we get into some, frankly, bizarre symbolic acts, chapters 5 and 12. Let's start with the haircut.
Huh. Yeah, the dramatic haircut. That would have definitely caused a stir.
He has to take a sharp blade like a barber's razor, shave everything off, hair, beard.
And then very deliberately weigh it, divide it into 3 exact portions.
And each third gets a different grim fate. One part burned in the city that's plague and famine during the siege.
Right.
Another third struck with a sword around the city that's falling in battle. And the last third, scattered to the wind with the sword chasing after them, exile and pursuit. It's so visceral, shows all the different facets of the judgment.
And what's really telling is the text says Jerusalem was put in the midst of the nations, like a central place, maybe a spiritual leader.
Responsibility.
Exactly. But their wickedness. Worse even than the surrounding nations, which makes the judgment feel even heavier somehow.
And the symbolism gets deeper. A tiny bit of that scattered hair is tucked into his clothes, a remnant saved.
The small remnant, yeah.
But then, even from that small group, some get thrown back into the fire. So even survivors face more purging.
It's relentless.
And then you get that horrifying prophecy about parents eating your children. Just utter societal breakdown because of their abominations.
These really stark, disturbing images, they're meant to show the absolute severity of the judgment, the total devastation coming from their unfaithfulness.
You're meant to feel it, not just hear it.
Definitely leaves an impression.
Then chapter 12 has another one. Packing his bags, digging a hole in the wall at twilight, carrying his stuff out, covering his face. It's like street theater almost.
A silent performance, yeah.
Hmm.
It's a direct sign to Israel. This is your exile. The prince in Jerusalem. He'll do the same. Carry his stuff on his shoulder in the dim light, sneak out through a hole, cover his face so he can't even see the land he's leaving.
Shame, fear, desperation.
I love it.
And it keeps going. Eat your bread shaking, drink your water trembling. This constant dread.
It reflects the desolation, the psychological state of what's coming. Even basic acts, eating and drinking, are filled with terror.
And there's that little insight into what people were saying, that proverb, the days drag on, every vision comes to nothing.
Yeah, like they're getting complacent, maybe wishful thinking, disbelief.
Could be.
It reflects this dangerous attitude, dismissing the warnings.
Yeah.
And God's response is immediate. Bam! The days are at hand and the effect of every vision.
No more delays.
Exactly. It's imminent. It's certain. No more empty predictions. What the Lord says happens. Now, it's like the point of no return has been reached.
So, loud and clear, don't get comfortable. Okay, now let's get into this pretty extensive list of condemnations. Idolatry, abominations, it runs through a lot of chapters.
Yeah, chapters 6, 8, 14, 16, 20, 22, 23.
Yeah.
They are really forceful about Israel's spiritual unfaithfulness. Chapter 6 starts right off against the mountains of Israel.
The high places, altars, idols, all targeted for destruction.
Total dismantling of false worship. And the imagery is rough. Bodies thrown down in front of idols, bones scattered around altars.
Gruesome consequences of betrayal.
But even there, amidst all that judgment, there's a little flicker. A remnant will escape, scattered.
Right.
And in captivity, they'll finally remember God. And crucially, they'll loathe themselves for what they did. That self-awareness, that remorse, seems key for any future hope.
Then chapter 8, wow, that's like getting a secret camera view of even worse stuff happening inside the temple itself.
Yeah, greater abominations. He sees these disturbing images painted on the walls, creeping things, idols, stuff that's totally forbidden, unclean. Then he sees 70 elders, respected leaders, secretly burning incense to these idols. Jazaniah, son of Shaphan, is right there with them.
So it's hypocrisy right at the top, widespread.
Totally pervasive. And it gets worse.
Women weeping for Tammuz, a pagan god, at the temple gate.
Right there. And then in the inner court, men worshiping the sun with their backs to the temple.
Wow. Symbolically turning away completely.
The message seems clear. Nothing is hidden. Not secret sins, not symbolic acts. God sees it all.
No hiding. Futile.
Chapter 14 then brings up this idea of idols not just out there, but in the heart. Internal idolatry.
Or insidious.
Yeah. And the text suggests if someone comes asking for guidance, but their heart is set on idols, God will answer them directly with judgment that fits their inner state.
And that stark reminder that even super righteous people, Noah, Daniel, Job, are named.
Yeah, the big names.
They couldn't save anyone else during widespread judgment, only themselves.
It really underlines the collective problem, doesn't it? And the severity of it all. Even the best individuals couldn't shield the community then.
Limits of individual righteousness against societal sin.
Then chapter 16 shifts gears, this extended metaphor. Jerusalem as an abandoned baby.
Found, cleaned up, raised, dressed in the best, given amazing jewelry by God. Incredible care.
Divine grace, totally extravagant. But then she trusts her own beauty, becomes a prostitute, uses the gifts God gave her.
Gold, silver.
To make idols. Uses God's incense for false gods, and the absolute worst.
Sacrificing her children to them, it's just shocking. Ingratitude, rebellion on a massive scale.
And it details the specifics, playing the harlot with Egypt, the Philistines. Shows how desperate, how indiscriminate her spiritual adultery became.
Yeah.
Chapter 20 goes back through history. Egypt, the wilderness, constant rebellion despite miracles, despite clear laws, the Sabbath.
They just kept rejecting commands, polluting Sabbaths, chasing idols.
Yet God holds back. For his name's sake. Incredible patience.
It's this tragic cycle, isn't it? Grace met with unfaithfulness.
Over and over. Then chapter 22 just lists everything wrong in Jerusalem to damning inventory.
Shedding blood, dishonoring parents, oppressing foreigners, exploiting the weak, despising holy things, breaking the Sabbath.
Gossip, lewdness, bribery for murder, usury, extortion.
And the bottom line, forgetting the Lord.
Jerusalem's compared to dross in a furnace.
Yeah.
Just impure metal to be melted down by divine fury. A comprehensive indictment.
And finally, chapter 23, the two sisters allegory, Aholah and Aholibah.
Samaria and Jerusalem. More detail on their spiritual adultery with Assyria, Babylon. and it spills out the graphic punishments coming.
No doubt left about the consequences. Intentionally disturbing.
Yeah, which brings us right to it. The judgment itself, the scattering, described in, well, terrifying detail across many chapters, the bill comes due.
Chapter 7 just announces the end for the whole land.
Not just a local problem, universal wrath. Buyers, sellers, everyone affected. No getting back what's lost.
Sword outside, plague and famine inside.
And their valuables. Silver, gold, worthless, thrown in the streets. Can't buy safety from God's wrath. Even the temple gets defiled.
Then chapter 9, that vision is chilling. 6 men with weapons.
Destroying weapons, yeah. And one guy with a writer's inkhorn.
To mark the foreheads of those who are actually grieving over the abominations in the city.
Those are the ones spared.
But everyone else, old, young, women, children, slaughter. And it starts at the sanctuary.
Terrifying. Makes you wonder if any faithful remnant can survive that kind of onslaught.
It highlights the selective judgment, though, sparing those who mourn the corruption.
Yeah. Chapters 11 and 19 use more symbols, broken rods, a vine planted in the desert then burned, that lament for the lioness and her cubs.
Judah and its kings.
All showing Jerusalem's weakness, its destruction.
Chapter 17 has that complex riddle, eagles, vine.
Which turns out to be about Babylon, King Zedekiah, his rebellion trying to ally with Egypt.
Breaking his oath to Babylon leads to death. A lesson about covenants and trusting unreliable power.
Definitely. Then chapter 18 tackles that proverb people were using. Fathers eat sour grapes, kids' teeth are set on edge.
Blaming the ancestors.
God flatly rejects it, stresses individual responsibility. Your sin is your own.
But there's hope in that chapter too, isn't there? The wicked can turn and live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the righteous person who turns bad will face consequences. It's all about present choices.
Yeah.
What you're doing now.
Chapter 21 ramps up the tension. That image of the sharpened, polished sword, aimed right at Jerusalem and its leaders.
And the king of Babylon at the crossroads, using divination.
Tossing arrows, consulting idols.
To decide, attack Rabbah or Jerusalem. The signs point to Jerusalem.
Then striking hands together, doubling the sword. It just emphasizes the certainty, the severity of the attack.
No escape. Chapter 24 uses that grim parable of the boiling pot.
Jerusalem is the pot. The people are the meat inside, good and bad pieces mixed together.
Stewing in their wickedness, their scum, and the spilled blood in the city, left uncovered deliberately to provoke God's fury.
And the pot itself gets burned empty eventually, to melt away the filth. Unheeded warnings lead to the final outpouring of wrath.
Totally consumed.
And then, that incredibly personal, painful command to Ezekiel, his wife dies suddenly.
The delight of your eyes.
And he's told not to mourn, no weeping, no traditional signs of grief.
That restraint, that suppressed grief, is a sign for the people. It foreshadows their own inability to mourn when the temple is destroyed, when their own children die.
The shock, the scale of the disaster will be too overwhelming for normal grief.
Just numb devastation. Chapters 25 to 32 then turn outwards. Prophecies against the neighbor.
Ammon, Moab, Edom, Seir, Philistia, Tyre, Sidon, Egypt.
Each gets a specific judgment based on their actions, gloating over Israel's fall, hatred, arrogance, idolatry.
Ammon condemned for rejoicing, Edom for its perpetual hatred, Tyre for its arrogance, thinking Jerusalem's fall is good for business.
Right. The Tyre prophecies are really detailed, lamenting its lost sea power, its wealth.
And that bit about the Prince of Tyre is fascinating, claiming to be a god, so wise, so rich.
Even mentions a past in Eden as an anointed cherub, before pride and sin brought him down. A real cautionary tale about hubris.
Absolutely. Leads to destruction, ashes.
Then the extensive prophecies against Egypt. Pharaoh as a great dragon. Land desolate for 40 years.
And regathered, but as a minor kingdom, a base kingdom.
Egypt, shown as a broken reed, totally unreliable for Israel to trust.
And Nebuchadnezzar gets Egypt as compensation for his hard work against Tyre.
Yeah, it shows God's sovereignty over empires. He uses Babylon, rewards Babylon, and that lament in chapter 32 shows Egypt going down to Sheol, the pit, joining other fallen nations. A stark warning.
And chapter 35 circles back to Edom, Mount Seir, condemned again for that deep-seated hatred, promised perpetual ruin.
Okay, then chapter 33 feels like a crucial turning point. It brings back that Watchman theme from the beginning.
Reinforces it strongly. The duty to warn, the consequences of not warning or not listening.
It also tackles the people's despair head on. They're saying, our sins are upon us, how can we live?
And God's answer is powerful. He takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. He wants them to turn and live.
It's a really strong statement of divine mercy amidst all the judgment.
And again, it stresses present action. Past goodness doesn't save you if you're sinning now. Past wickedness doesn't doom you if you genuinely repent now.
It's about the choices right now. And this chapter marks when the news finally arrives. Jerusalem has fallen.
And Ezekiel's mouth is opened after being mute for so long. A major shift.
The judgment prophesied is now reality. And the chapter also confronts those left in the ruins who are claiming the land just because they're descendants of Abraham.
But they're still sinning, eating meat with blood, idolatry, violence, immorality.
Their actions disqualify them. Heritage isn't enough without righteousness.
But it doesn't end there, does it? After all that judgment, starting around chapter 36, there's this incredible shift. Promises of restoration. Real hope.
A definite pivot. Chapter 36 speaks directly to the mountains of Israel, the ones that were mocked. God promises they'll be fruitful again for the returning people.
He'll multiply people, livestock, rebuild the ruins, restore things even better than before.
And crucially, it's not because Israel deserves it. It's for the sake of my holy name, which was profaned among the nations because of Israel's exile. It's about God's reputation.
Then you get that beautiful imagery. Cleansing with water, a new heart, a new spirit.
An inner transformation. God's own spirit enabling them to follow his ways.
The land itself becoming like Eden again, and the other nations will see it and know the Lord did it. Total renewal, inside and out.
Then chapters 38 and 39 introduce something new and dramatic. Gog of Magog.
This mysterious figure from the north, leading a huge coalition army, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer to Garma.
Against a restored, peaceful Israel, living in unwalled villages, feeling safe. This seems to be set sometime after the return.
But this invasion is doomed. God steps in dramatically, turns Gog back, puts hooks in his jaws, brings him against Israel specifically to show his power to the nations.
Yeah, a massive display. Earthquakes, natural disasters, even infighting in Gog's army. Total divine intervention.
The destruction is complete. Gog's army left for the birds and beasts on the mountains of Israel. Fire sent on Magog itself.
It serves to make God's holy name known everywhere. And the cleanup afterwards takes 7 months just to bury the dead.
And 7 years to burn all the weapons shows the scale of the victory and the complete removal of the threat.
There's even a valley named Haman Gog, multitude of Gog, and a city, Himona, multitude, memorials to the event.
After Gog's defeat, the final gathering of Israel from all nations happens. God is sanctified in them before everyone.
They dwell safely, and in that state, they finally remember their past sins and feel shame, knowing God's restoration was pure grace, for his name's sake, not earned.
Undeserved grace, yeah.
Chapters 40 to 48 then shift to that incredibly detailed vision. A new temple, a new city, meticulously measured.
Symbolizing future divine presence, perfect order, God's glory returns to this temple from the east, a permanent dwelling.
And details like the east gate staying shut because God entered through it, reserved for the prince, holiness restored.
No uncircumcised foreigners allowed in the sanctuary. Even the Levites who went astray have a diminished role, serving but not as high priests.
Reflects past unfaithfulness having consequences, even in restoration. There are provisions for sacrifices, offerings.
And it culminates in that amazing vision of the river flowing from the temple,
bringing life, healing, fruitfulness to the whole land.
Then the land is divided precisely among the tribes. And the city's new name.
The Lord is there. Yahweh Shammah. The ultimate promise. God's abiding presence.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, wow. Several big themes really stand out.
Definitely. Unmistakable divine judgment on unfaithfulness, especially idolatry. The consequences of disobedience shown so vividly, often disturbingly.
They're those symbolic acts.
Yeah, the shaved hair, the temple abominations, the boiling pot, those prophecies against the nations.
Things that stick with you.
They really do. But then that powerful contrast with the defeat of Gog, the vision of the new temple, the renewed land, it offers this profound sense of hope, of reconciliation.
These ancient texts, though, from a specific time and place, they really do touch on timeless themes, don't they? Accountability, justice, mercy.
And that deep human longing for renewal, for restoration, especially after dark times.
Which kind of leads to our final thought for you, the listener. How might these ancient ideas, judgment, restoration, echo in our world today?
How do we, individually or as societies, deal with the consequences of choices? Where do we find hope for a fresh start when things seem bleak?
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.